there, it's 12 noon. Welcome to the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. We're coming to you live from our studios here at Adesawe Kanda. We're also streaming on all our social media platforms at 3FM 92.7. Remember, we're also live on Kesmi 107.1 FM. My name is Christabel Success Treve. Coming up this afternoon, 2 days after his imprisonment over illegal mining, embattled Ashanti Regional NPP Chairman Bernard Antwi Boasiako returns to court in a separate illegal mining trial. We've got all the details for you here, so do keep your dials on here. Meanwhile, Deputy Attorney General rebuffs suggestions that a prison sentence imposed on Chairman Wontumi amounts to political persecution. Also, all eyes on Parliament tomorrow as the Finance Minister presents the midyear budget review. We'll bring you public expectations. Don't go away. Thank you for keeping your dial here on 3FM. Now, convicted Ashanti Regional Chairman of the NPP, Bernard Antwi Boasiako alias Wontumi has this morning appeared before the Accra High Court in a case where he has been charged together with Akonta Mining for engaging in illegal mining in the Tanot Nimrit Forest Reserve. Chairman Wontumi arrived in court alongside co-accused Akonta Mining Limited, Kwame Antwi and Owusu Bempa. Now, the accused are facing charges of illegal mining allegedly carried out within the Tanot Nimrit Forest Reserve in the Western region. Very shortly, we will be connecting to our court correspondent and he'll be giving us all those details. Meanwhile, we've been joined in studio by Wisdom Safo. He is on the research desk here at 3FM Media General. Thank you so much for joining us here.
Thank you.
Well, can you provide us with all the details when it comes to the charges in this Tanot Nimrit Forest case and explain to us how they differ from the one Chairman Wontumi has been convicted for, and he's currently serving, 20 years.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So, Christabel, if you look at the charges or the criminal cases against Wontumi, there are three separate cases. We have the Samra Boy concession case, and he was accused on 6 counts, and he was convicted of count 1 and 4.
Okay.
And that is what he is currently serving at the Nsawam medium security prison. And we have the Tanot Nimrit Forest Reserve case, and he have 7 counts or cases against him and the company and the accused persons in this case. And he's been convicted, or he's been not convicted, he's been alleged on 3 different counts. That's count 2, count 5, and count 7. And that is what is pending trial currently. And we also have the Ghana Exim Bank case. There's also 4 counts in that cases against him, and currently is also going through a plea bargain. So let me quickly run you through the counts in this Tanot Nimrit Forest. So the first count was against Akonta Mining, and the charge was that the company was undertaking mining operations without a license. The second count is against Wontumi and Kwame Antwi, and the charge was also undertaking mining operations without the license. So Wontumi is mentioned in this count 2. And we move on to count 3, which is against Edward and Kwejo Owusu Bempa. And that one is also undertaking mining operations without a license. We have the 4th count, which is against Akonta Mining, also felling of trees in the reserve without rating authority. The count 5 is against Wontumi and others, and that is abetting the unauthorized felling of trees. We have the count 6, which is against the Akonta Mining Limited, and also erecting buildings or structures in a forest reserve. And we have count 7, which is Wontumi and others, which is abetting the unauthorized erection of building and structure. So we have Wontumi being involved in count 2, count 5, and count 7 in this particular Tano Nimre Forest case. And I must put on record that this also carries a jail term up to 25 years. So it is saying 25 years, a maximum jail term of 25 years for the undertaking of a mining operation without a license. And the particular counsel who is leading this charge is Andy Apia Kubi. Actually, there were later reports that were saying that he's recusing himself, but that one was for the Samurai Boy case and not that of the Tano Nimre Forest case.
Well, Wisdom, thank you so much for those details there. We'll be moving on and still staying on this particular topic because Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Ramsai has rebuffed suggestions that a prison sentence imposed on the NPP's Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Antwi Boasiako amounts to political persecution. In an interview with Kemini Amano, the Deputy AG stressed that the court actually relied on evidence by the defense team in convicting Chairman Wontumi. He also appealed to critics of the judgment to read the ruling by the court before making unguarded statements.
Cannot be an accurate description of what happened. I mean, this is a case which has been tried fairly with a lot of the discretion during the trial exercised in favor of the accused person. The question is, if this is a political persecution and they believe strongly, that means that you believe strongly that you are innocent, right? If you are innocent, the manner in which you even conducted yourself to the latter end is as if you knew that you didn't have a defense. And I don't know if you have had the opportunity to read the judgment, but most of the evidence that we have, the pieces of evidence that we have, which the judge relied on, came from their defense. Defense witnesses, the accused person's own comments, his own witness statement, his own police statement. Those were the materials that form the basis for the conclusion of the judgment. So it will be it is shocking to me, but that they would say is political persecution. But I understand what we do. This is politics in a way. I mean, what they are doing is politics, and they issued that statement, or they had a press conference when they had not seen the judgment. So do you expect them, now that they've seen the judgment, they will go back and say what we said was wrong? They would never do that. They would rather double down and say things. But so far, I don't think anyone has pointed to any aspect of the judgment that they believe strongly that is so erroneous.
Should the constitutional matter that Samuel Atachian raised in court have stalls the reading or the decision making of the judge at any point at all?
So when you raise a constitutional question in the lower court, the Constitution says that the judge ought to first examine your issue to determine whether it's a legitimate issue. If the judge finds out that it's a real and genuine issue, then he has to stay the proceedings and make the reference. And if the judge finds out that it is not a real or genuine issue, the judge is supposed to dismiss it and proceed with the trial. And if you don't agree, then you appeal against the judge's decision. The policy reason is simple. Someone who doesn't want the trial to continue will just be raising constitutional issue today, and then you call all the 9 judges in the Supreme Court to decide, and after that he will come back and raise another one. So the rules are designed, or the principles are designed to make sure that you don't use them, we call it abuse of the court processes. And for us, that's exactly what we saw in this matter. It was an attempt to abuse, to use the court processes or court rules to delay the trial and to prevent a decision from being reached. And it was not difficult for us that the judge dismissed it. The judge saw through it because there was no real genuine issue. What they were saying was, you have pleaded guilty to a particular count. You did not raise any issue. You've gone through trial. Trial has ended. You have filed your address, which is the final act that everyone does. Then you come to say, oh, I think what I have pleaded to, I have provided witnesses to do was vague. So I want the court to, that is not to say that you cannot raise it, but when you raise it that late, chances are that you are not being genuine. And in this case, they were not genuine.
And so you must have heard that the counsel for former counsel is hard to describe him right now, but he told us that, look, on the last day of the trial, Chairman Wontumi called me and he says, look, if this goes south, I want you to appeal for me. So you must have heard that's their plan and to go on appeal on this.
I found it strange that that actually happened. And it gives me a lot of, it supports our suspicion that that swap of counsel which happened between the close of case and the judgment was only designed to delay the case, because you said you don't want this lawyer again. I want Atachian to come. Then, after you have been convicted, before you go to court, you reportedly had told the lawyer that you didn't want that, oh, if I'm convicted, I want you to continue to represent me. It tells me that you clearly have a design, or you had a design to delay you just did that thing to delay the process. So that itself, I find it very strange. And when I heard it, I was like, okay, it's clear to Ghanaians that this whole thing is just a drama to frustrate the cause of justice.
In the state's view, is there anything to appeal?
We don't think there's any proper basis for anyone to appeal the decision. Of course, the right to appeal is guaranteed. You can appeal, but I do not think that any appeal will succeed against this case, as I understand it.
Well, you just heard there the voices of Deputy Attorney General Dr. Justice Treve in an exclusive interview with Kemini Amano. Meanwhile, the Deputy AG says the Attorney General has rejected a plea bargain proposal submitted by lawyers for NPP Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Antwi Boasiako in the ongoing Exim Bank criminal case. Justice Treve said the Attorney General rejected the proposal because the terms offered by the defense were not acceptable to the state. He explained that the prosecution had already taken the decision and was only waiting to formally communicate it to Wontumi's legal team. Although he declined to disclose the details of the proposal, the Deputy Attorney General said the defense had offered to pay an amount the state considered inadequate, leading to the rejection of the plea bargain. Now, Chairman Wontumi and two others are standing trial over allegations of fraud involving a loan facility granted by the Ghana Export-Import Bank, Exim Bank, for a farming project. Prosecutors allege the loan was contained through false representations and was diverted from its intended purpose. The accused persons have pleaded not guilty to the charges, and the case remains before the court. We still remain in court now, and the Accra High Court has set Thursday, July 23, to rule on an application by lawyers of former NAFCO CEO seeking to strike out the charges against Hanan Abdul Wahab Aludiba. Godfred Yeboadami, lead counsel for the ex-NAFCO CEO, argued that the charges are fundamentally defective, noting that they are duplicitous and ambiguous. Hanan Abdul Wahab Aludiba and his wife Faiza Seiduwuni have been charged with multiple offences, including stealing, causing financial loss to the state, and money laundering. Well, we'll be connecting very shortly to our correspondent, but before then, all eyes on Parliament tomorrow as the Finance Minister presents the mid-year budget review. In the Western region, traders are urging Dr. Kasiela to force him to honour his pledge and fund the stalled Takoradi Market Sector redevelopment project. Behind the market, residents say roads, sanitation and inflation remain urgent priorities. Let's take a listen as they share their expectations.
2 weeks time, Obama a contractor by site. Sisi ayeka say time Oba 9th November. No, January contractor by site. Sisi ayewo July. She chede yegwe woli sabaye. Nti sre na yele sre. Siensa de yem. Yensa yem de yesren. One for one cho when you ambasha takwadi gwe mai. Na ya ha ododo. Yeske nyale show. One and Yipalu. Aha, you when Yipabiamba, a disguise shampo no show. It's yes, Mr. President, ya yenyim there. Our the one saka dinner ye. Them re ye makumasi ye market coast. We do ya so ya do. Oba yam pa 24-hour market. On fa market circle. On fa yam farmer.
Ye driver for ye hwehwe say. Fu e no matuma koso. Enti omo momode na lolo fe no. Omo ye hu bibi ma ye. No omo tu lolo fe no ma ye so. Aduma ye no. Ye so ye hu to ye kakra. Enu fi ho a ye kwan no enye kra asese ye kwan le die. So omunye ready so omo be ya at least omo hwe maintenance no omo feel baby access e nye den e maye na e koso more accident
an inflation system na adini na akodo a ano at least no ye but e be fom na ontumi nsa no nko fom no why the economic you know indicators and the na point there oye but e be your pocket na ontumi reflect papa.
So my concern is the treasury bills, the exchange rate. It has really depreciated. So I'll be really glad if our finance minister should tackle that issue, because as students as I am today, when I have some 500 cedis, I would like to invest in treasury bills to get some dividends from that place. But looking at the rate of exchange, it's really, really, really low.
The finance minister to look more into the sanitation processes of the nation, because the recent flooding caused a lot of disaster in the nation. I'll tell him that he should let some of the people in position hold more account when it comes to the environment, not only Takrade, but Ghana as a whole.
Those were some of the voices of some residents in the Western region. They are urging Dr. Kasela Tuforsing, who is the finance minister, to honor his pledge and fund the stalled Takrade market sector. We'll now take you to the MPP headquarters here in Accra as the party addresses the media ahead of the mid-year budget. And we've been joined by my colleague who is currently at that media engagement. Grace Hamwajiman, thank you so much for joining us here. What are the highlights of the NPP media engagements?
Right, Christabel. So the New Patriotic Party, especially its Economic and Finance Committee Policy and Policy Committee, is this afternoon addressing the media and speaking about some of the economic indicators that the NDC government gave out that it was going to meet in the first quarter or half year of this year, and why the NDC has not met these figures. And they are accusing government that because government is not spending enough, it is stifling the numbers to ensure that spending does not go high. You know, anytime when spending increases, it means the city will also suffer a bit. So the NDC makes the case that when you look at economic expenditure, government set a target of 78 billion, but it has spent only 62 billion. Because of that, they are not able to meet the target, and so government is not spending. They also make a case that when you look at capital expenditure, it is at there is a fallout or a shortage of 41% as compared to the 100% that government was looking at spending. They also make a case that grants to health, education, schooling, and all the other social amenities are also 19% below the target government said to have achieved in the first half of this year. They also look, when you look at goods and services, it is also 35% below the target government said to have achieved in the first half of this year. When we put all of these together, it shows that it is not as if government, the NDC government has put in place any proper measures or sustainable measures according to the NDC, but rather government is not spending. And so it is not spending, and so the expenditure or the city has become some form of stable, but it's not as if because government has put in place any form of proper measures to ensure the city's stability. A member of the committee, Kojo Okonkoma, has been speaking to us. We can listen to him.
3FM 92.7. 3FM 92.7.
How the headline numbers are being manufactured
and whether they can last.
3FM 92.7.
Put 3 tests to data on what they call the service. Now, on Thursday, for sure, the country that got data on what they call the service. Now, on Thursday, for sure, the government will tell the country that Ghana has moved from stability to growth. Our task today is to lay out what the government's own published data actually shows, not the headline or narrative they are putting on it, but what the data actually shows. How the headline numbers are being manufactured and whether they can last, and what they have cost the ordinary Ghanaian. And we'll put 3 tests to this review. But the first is the quality of the 2025 surplus. Now, the government will cite a 2025 primary surplus of 2.6% of GDP on a commitment basis against a target of 1.5%. And they would seek to tell the Ghanaian people that that means that they are managing the fiscals prudently. But we want to sound a caution ahead that it's important to look underneath these numbers. You will find that revenue has missed the revised target by about 4.7%, and the surplus was delivered because expenditure was compressed by 13.8% of GDP. In plain language, the government did not out-collect its target. It rather underspent its expenditure targets. Savings from delayed capital execution are not structural reform. They are only a postponement of things that they will have to do at the end of the day. The second issue is something that the first quarter of 2026 confirms as a pattern. Now, the government's own data, through what the Bank of Ghana has just released ahead of the MPC, shows that first quarter spending is about 62 billion against a target of 78 billion. That is
3FM 92.7.
Capital expenditure is 41% below target. This is a government that says that its focus is a big infrastructure project out of which it will create 800,000 jobs. And they are 41.9% below target on capital expenditure. Foreign finance projects is about 0.6 billion Ghana cedis out of 5.3 billion Ghana cedis. Goods and services, 35% below target. Grants to health, education, and the districts is about 19% below target. And the only thing that they've been able to protect is the wage bill. And that is why the independent analysts are calling this the weakest first quarter execution of any budget since 2017.
You just heard there the voice of the ranking member on Parliament's Economy and Development Committee, Kojo Opong Nkrumah. Earlier, we engaged our correspondent, Grace Hamwajaman, who was at the NPP headquarters here in Accra. Now, away from that, President John Dramani Mahama has made a passionate appeal to leaders of the African Union to make pledges, health, financing more physical than lyrical in words. Concerned about more than 90% of Africans living with hepatitis B or C remaining undiagnosed and several records of non-communicable diseases, the president maintains that efforts at combating health disease must draw institutions such as the Ministries of Finance to the table, as Africa is taking its own health financing without external support.
We know very well that health value chains mean factories, laboratories, and dignified work for our young people, sewn together by the African Continental Free Trade Area. Sovereignty in health, it turns out, is also an industrial policy, a structural transformational agent, and a liberation strategy. 25 years ago in Abuja, we promised to devote 15% of our national budgets to health. That promise is now old enough to have children of its own. So the pledges we make this afternoon must be physical, not lyrical. Through the African Leadership Meeting commitments and the Program for Financing and Investing in African Health, through debt for health arrangements, solidarity instruments, and protected budget lines that survive electoral cycles, let each of us bring the Ministry of Finance to the health table and keep it seated right at that table. Prevention repays us ninefold. Show me a better bond in the economy market than prevention. Excellencies, this afternoon, we shall deliberate amongst ourselves on local manufacturing, financing, and governance and leadership. Our member states will pledge, and we shall adopt the Accra Declaration. As your host and your brother, I make one request of all of us. Let us not adopt another eloquent text. Let us seal our pacts with our words of honor. The declaration establishes a continental monitoring, reporting, and accountability framework, which we hope to align with Accra Research framework. We commit to an annual scorecard to be regularly brought to this very assembly for peer review amongst us. And I ask that we embrace that scorecard as the mark of a union that has grown confident enough to grade itself.
That was the President John Dramani Mahama speaking there. The Doma Poultry Farmers and Eggs Exporters Association has expressed gratitude to the government and key stakeholders following the resumption of egg exports from Ghana to Burkina Faso. The development comes after Burkina Faso officially lifted its ban on Ghanaian eggs following successful bilateral negotiations between the two countries. Here's a report by Claude Kumi Ebisa.
The decision months of uncertainty for poultry farmers and egg exporters in Doma, whose businesses suffered heavy losses after consignment of eggs were seized and destroyed in Burkina Faso. In a statement read by the president of the Doma Egg Exporters Association, Sylvester Ashanti, the association described the lifting of the ban as a major relief for hundreds of poultry farmers and traders who rely on the cross-border market for their livelihoods.
The Doma Poultry Farmers and Egg Exporters Association would like to express our heartfelt appreciation to all individuals and institutions whose efforts have led to the resumption of eggs exports from Ghana to Burkina Faso. The association recalls that the seizure and destruction of eggs in Burkina Faso caused significant hardship for its members, disrupting businesses and affecting the livelihoods of many families who depend on the cross-border egg trade. The association is particularly grateful to Osajefo Osiadeyo Ajimabedu II and the Doma Traditional Council for standing by us and helping to bring our concerns to the attention of the government. The association also extends its sincere appreciation to His Excellency, John Dramani Mahama.
Just before we go, in a bid to secure vital natural resources, the Minerals Commission has deployed some 452 water guards across the 3 Bono regions to protect heavily targeted forest reserves and water bodies. Belinda Tete reports.
In a bid to secure the vital natural resources, the Minerals Commission has unveiled a total of 452 water guards across the Bono East and Hafo regions. The deployment is a direct response to the persistent threat of illegal mining, which continues to devastate local ecosystem. Alongside the deployment, the Commission has issued an ultimatum to illegal operators to legalize the activities or face the full force of the law.
So, person will legalize no, ya can be as a Minerals Commission.
We've set times without number that if you want to legalize your operations, come to the Minerals Commission and go through the right procedures. But if you've decided not to do that and the law gets a hold of you, we are going to deal with you. Authorities emphasize that anyone who incites violence or attacks the newly deployed guards will face severe legal consequences. The work of these guards is fully backed by government, and so whoever incites violence against these guards will face the full charges of the law. The municipal chief executive for Kintampo urged residents and local businesses to immediately halt all activities polluting the black voter.
Well, that's all the time we have here on the Midday News on 3FM 92.7. Don't forget to check out our website, 3news.com, for more stories and updates. My name is Christabel Success Treve. Business Daily is up next. Hello, good afternoon and welcome to Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. Coming up this afternoon, Bank of Ghana set to announce policy rate decision today, focused on rising inflation, liquidity reforms and renewed global oil price risks. Also in this bulletin, ahead of Thursday's 2026 mid-year budget review, private sector stakeholders urge Finance Minister to pivot from rigid austerity to production-driven growth while demanding full accountability on the Big Push agenda.
Getting to the mid-year budget review, we would want to hear from the minister, giving us clear indications on the policy directions and
Plus, Ghana's public debt surges to 720.8 billion cedis in May 2026, representing 45.1% of GDP following a continuous climb since January. I am Christabel Success Treve. We'll bring you details of our headlines and other stories shortly. Don't go away. Thank you for keeping your dial here. Now, the Bank of Ghana is expected to announce its latest monetary policy decision later today, following the conclusion of its 31st Monetary Policy Committee meeting in Accra. The announcement comes immediately after today's conclusion of its 3 days of deliberations on whether the recent pickup in inflation reflects a temporary adjustment or the start of more persistent price pressures amid renewed volatility in global oil markets and changes to domestic liquidity conditions. There is more in the following 3 Business News Desk reports.
The decision is being keenly watched by investors, businesses, and financial markets for guidance on the central bank's next policy direction following 3 consecutive months of rising inflation. Opening the meeting on Monday, Governor Dr. Johnson Panditi-Siama said the committee's deliberations would center on whether inflation's rise from 3.2% in March to 5.3% in June represents an orderly return towards the bank's target range or signals a more persistent shift in the inflation outlook. The committee also assessed the impact of recent liquidity management reforms, including the bank's decision to discontinue pre-financing the Ghana Gold Board gold purchases through its auction arrangements, as well as implications of renewed global oil price volatility on inflation, the exchange rate, and reserve accumulation. Despite the recent increase in inflation, the governor maintained that Ghana's economy remains resilient, pointing to strong first quarter economic growth, improved private sector credit, and a stable banking sector. The Monetary Policy Committee's decision, expected later today, will indicate whether policymakers believe current economic conditions warrant maintaining the policy rate at 14% or adjusting the monetary policy stance to address emerging inflation risks.
You just heard there a report on Bank of Ghana set to announce policy rate decision today, focused on rising inflation and other reforms. Now, as Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Atuforsen prepares to present the 2026 mid-year budget review to Parliament on Thursday, July 23, 2026, private sector stakeholders are demanding that government pivot from rigid fiscal austerity toward bold production-driven reforms, among others. Chief among their expectations is the call for public accountability on the Big Push agenda. Well, we apologize for that sound. We'll bring you that in a subsequent bulletins. Now, according to the July 2026 summary of financial and economic data by the Bank of Ghana, the country's public debt has been increasing since January 2026. Ghana's public debt hit 720.8 billion cedis in May 2026, equivalent to 45.1% of gross domestic product (GDP). Well, this is a 3 Business report, and it has more. We'll bring you that also in our subsequent bulletins. And Italy is seeking to deepen investment in Ghana's cocoa industry with a proposal to build a 3,000-hectare mechanized cocoa development zone to drive local processing and value addition. Presenting the proposal to Cocoa Board, Italian ambassador to Ghana, Her Excellency Laura Ranalli highlighted the Cocoa Connect initiative, which aims to transition Ghana from exporting raw cocoa beans to producing semi-finished and finished chocolate products. Cocoa Board Chief Executive Dr. Randy Abbey welcomed the proposal and promised full technical and agroeconomic support to help transform the country's cocoa value chain and boost job creation. This strategic collaboration is expected to significantly boost Ghana's foreign exchange earnings and position the nation as a key hub for chocolate manufacturing in West Africa. That'll be all for Business Daily on 3FM 92.7. For more stories, don't forget to check out our website, 3news.com. My name is Christabel Success Treve. Well, stay tuned, don't go away.